Hello, welcome to my recap of Game 4 of World Championship match. In this game, Magnus Carlsen was white, and they played Petrov. After which Magnus took, he went into the main line, and after d6 he went back, knight e4, and here there are a couple of possibilities. One of them is knight c3, which was played in the previous match with Caruana, after which black can take dc3, and usually white goes to a long castle and black is the one who picks the side. But here Magnus chose to play d4, after which Nepomniachtchi answers with d5, bishop d3, and now bishop d6. The position is almost symmetrical, with the exception of those knights on e4 and f3. Now white castles, and now c4. White tries to undermine the knight on e4 by hitting this pawn on d5, and now very logical response by black, c6. Now rook e1. White still tries to get this knight away from e4. Now bishop f5 by black, holding the tension in the center. And now queen b3. Once the bishop got from c8, now b7 is very vulnerable, so queen b3 was played, and I think that if you go queen b6 here, now just queen c2 back, and c5 is very unpleasant to meet. So in this position, also there is a move like knight a6, a very tricky move. In case of capturing on b7, that would be a mistake for white because of knight b4. And now white's queen is trapped on b7. And also white has a problem with his bishop on d3. He cannot go to f1 because of knight c2. And if he does something like rook e3 here, then I don't know, maybe just rook b8, and if this, go back and move the queen away and have this rook fb8 as a final nail in the coffin. So knight a6 is a decent try here. Of course, the d5 pawn is not hanging because of bishop h2 ideas and taking the queen. c5 is also impossible because of knight a c5. And after dc is just knight c5, and black will be 2 pawns up. Unless white gives up the queen for 3 pieces, but I think that in this case those central pawns are quite strong against 3 pieces. So after knight a6, I think that white can just play knight c3. And in case of capturing, you always have bishop f5, which is unpleasant. And if you do something like this, which is or that, then I think 3 pieces are quite good, because in this case the center is challenged. And if you compare the previous position, white didn't have a pawn. He lacked 1 pawn in the center. And in this position it's not so bad. But let's go to the game. After queen b3, black chose to go queen d7 to defend the pawn on b7 and also to support his bishop. And as well to support the pawn indirectly, because now it's impossible to capture it twice because of bishop h2, like I said. So after queen d7, white goes with knight c3. Black took on c3. Now, if queen c3, I think black will equalize pretty easily. After this, he would go knight a6 and go to c7 and d5, and I'm not sure that white has enough play to compensate this isolated pawn on d4. So I think correctly he escaped this and he took on f5 instead. Now queen takes, and now white has two options. He can take bc like in the game, or he can take on b7 first. Quite nice intermezzo. After which, the most played move is queen d7 in this position. And now, of course, queen a8 is impossible because of knight a6. Or no. Oh, wait. Oh no, you get back the knight. Oh, yeah. That's right. Because the queen cannot escape. Because if you do knight a6, now white takes, king takes, and bc. After which white has two rooks for a queen, but in this case, if you go knight a4 first, now you save the knight and also get the knight b6 next. Strobex, good morning. This is the first recap I'm doing live, so this might be a longer one than usual, but please bear with me. So after queen d7, white has to capture, knight captures, and now c5. Also a very nice intermezzo by white. And now if the bishop moves to c7, then you can take on c3 and white is a pawn up. If black takes on c5, then dc, and in case of knight e4, now there's knight d4, attacking the c6, and if you try to defend it by rook c8, now b4 is possible, and next will be f3 and bishop f4, and black's pawns are quite bad here. So after this and c5, now black usually takes on h2 and knight takes, so he can have f3 next. And in case of knight e4, there's bishop f4 to stop rook b8 and some pressure on the pawn, but still, I think black has a quite decent position. He can always kick this bishop from this diagonal by g5, and the position is not so easy for white as it might seem at first. So after queen f5, Magnus chose bc. And now b6 by black. Defending the b pawn and also keeping d5 defended. So cd, cd, and now queen b5. White tries to hinder the development of black's queenside. For example, if black plays knight d7, now queen c6, suddenly black loses a bishop. There's no way to escape. For example, if bishop b8, now you can go king h1 just because, of course, this doesn't work because of bishop h2. So you just step away with king h1 first, and then the rook is lost because, or the bishop. If bishop f4, then you can take and take the knight in the end. So this queen b5 is a bit unpleasant, so Black goes back to d7, tries to somehow develop his queenside, and now white chooses to play a4. Now his idea is to, after black captured, to take on b5 and to not allow black to develop so easily. But now Jan plays a5, a very nice move, which will ask white some questions. Do you want to keep this this passed pawn, or do you want to activate my knight? In case of ba happens, then knight takes, and knight can go to c7 next, and he will have a good game. Also, rook fb8 with b5, b4 is another idea. So maybe because of that, because the game would be very simplified after that, Magnus chose to go knight h4, heading towards f5. And black answered with g6. And now g4, very interesting idea. The idea behind this is to go knight g2, knight e3 to attack the pawn on d5. And even if black manages to somehow defend this pawn by knight d7, knight f6, then white would have g5 as a very nice resource. Black goes knight d7, knight g2, and now rook fc8. He targets the pawn on c3. Now bishop f4 by Magnus. And here they exchanged the bishops, knight f4, he took on c3, knight d5, and now rook d3. And here white goes to the 7th rank, and now it's impossible to defend the knight by rook d8 because of rook d7 and this nice fork. So he went back to f8. There was nothing better to do, so he went back to f8, and now knight f6. And I think already here you can see that there is a potential perpetual check in the position, like something like this, and going back and forth, because black has to defend his f7 pawn, so he's not able to go to h8 right away. So he gave a check on e8, king g8, and now d5, using the fact that you cannot capture on d5 because of knight f6 fork. But now black's a pawn starts running, and it's not so pleasant for white. If it wasn't for this a pawn, if the pawn was on a7, then the position would be of course much better for white, if not winning. He went back, king g7, and now g5, fixing the knight on f6, and now a3. And here things become really complex because, again, like I said, the a pawn is a big trouble for white. If it wasn't for this a pawn, white's rook would easily get into the play with rook c1, rook c7, and target the f7 pawn, but it's not the case. White has to take care of the a pawn, so he gave a check, and now king g8. For example, if he went for king h8, now because of the knight on e8, it's not possible to capture on f7. And if he goes back and black tries with a2, if he doesn't want to repeat moves with king g7, now white can capture, but still I think this is also a draw, because after rook b3, king g2, to avoid rook b1, and now after, I think that it would be bad for black to do this because of rook f8 and capturing on a2, after which next move is going to be rook a7, and it's really not a good position for black. But in this case, if If black just takes on b5, now this doesn't work. Because black has rook a5 to defend. And now I think it's just repetition of moves after rook c5, rook a2. And even if you don't repeat, if you go rook c7, now d6 might be enough to defend for white. So after this, Jan chose just to go with it and go king g8. And after these moves, they repeat moves and they declare the draw. And that's it. Wow, this was quick. Well, this is usually taking much more time than it was now. I don't know what else to add because the opening could go in so many different ways, but I don't think it's so relevant. Maybe here, for example, in this position, if white went instead of bishop f4 for bishop a3, now black had a nice move, bishop f8, holding tension and also keeping the pressure on c3. So in case of rook ec1 to defend, or let's say rook e3, now after knight f6 there is always this unpleasant threat of knight e4, and if you play f3 then knight e8, and after the exchange knight goes to d6, and it's even black who is the one who is better here. When I was watching the game live, I thought that Magnus would catch Jan in some preparation, but I guess that both of them were just so well prepared for this variation, especially. That was it. That is my short stream. Thank you for watching, and see you very soon. See you tomorrow in the next video. But I think this time it's not gonna be. I think I will commentate for change. See you. I'm gonna go to Twitch now, and have a good day. Bye.